My name is Elizabeth Pearson, and here is my ID. Just want to cover up my address. This is it. So hopefully you can see it. Okay. So I'm doing my PowerPoint presentation on smoke and mirrors, the laws of motion in the world of magic. So I picked this topic because magic has pretty much always interested me, but I've never really thought about how it relates to science. So I thought it would be interesting to go through the laws of motion and see what magic tricks match with the laws. So the next PowerPoint slide, it just says science or magic. So most of the time I know that you wouldn't think that science and magic go together, but today we're going to talk about how they do and why in a few magic tricks. So basically on this slide it just says magic is often seen as a different world filled with mysticism and violates the laws of science, whereas science is seen as the realm of materialism and technology. So I just wanted to briefly touch on how the different views of science and magic are seen by people, because I know most people think that they do not go together. So I thought it would be pretty cool to show you guys why. So in the next slide, we're going to go over briefly just the laws of motion. So in the first law, it says every object in a state of uniform motion tends to stay in the state of motion unless the external force is applied to it. And objects in motion tend to stay in motion, it is typically referred to as inertia. Inertia means that once an object starts in a certain direction, it requires a greater or equal force to stop it. So in the next slide, we're going to go over a specific magic trick that directly involves inertia. So you'll be able to relate it back to that. The second law just says the relationship between objects' mass and acceleration and the applied force is F equals ma. So force equals mass times acceleration, and then it says the acceleration and force must be in the same direction in order for the formula to work. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then the third law of motion, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So we're going to talk about a specific magic trick that also touches on the third law. So for the next slide, we're going to talk about the first magic trick that directly relates to the first law of motion, which is the tablecloth trick, which I'm sure you've seen in movies, or maybe you've even tried to do it yourself, like when Vine was popular. But basically it's where you have a tablecloth on a table, and then you have like a plate and a cup and, forks and spoons, and you pull it out really quickly without moving any of the stuff on top of it. So I know this is a really popular one, so most of you guys could probably relate to this one, so that's why I chose this one. So we're going to talk about why and how science and the first law of motion relates to this specific magic trick. So it says the reason that this trick is possible is because of the first law of motion, which I know I just told you guys. The trick takes advantage of the inertia of the objects on the table. Even objects that are at rest have inertia and will resist acceleration. So basically that's what's happening in this picture right here. So the person is going to pull the tablecloth, and then these items that are on top of it are gonna stay there, because as you're pulling, the acceleration is resisting from the objects. So I thought that one was pretty interesting, and I know most of you guys again would know that one, so that's why I picked that one. So the next magic trick we're going to talk about, which I think I have done in a previous science class, but I just wanted to touch on it because I thought it was kind of interesting, and again it relates back to one of the laws of motion. So this is the seesaw candle fire magic trick. So when I go to the next slide, we're going to talk about the picture and how it is done. So basically you have 2 cups with a candlestick right here and then the fire. And what is happening is that it's teetering, which it's described right here. The reason that this magic trick is possible is because of Newton's third law of motion. The candle moves in response to force acting on it, trying to reach equilibrium. So I just thought that this one was pretty interesting as well, and it's something that you can try at home so that way you can see it for your own eyes. But yeah, that's pretty much my PowerPoint. I was really interested in learning about how, the laws of motion relate to magic tricks. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you guys for listening. I hope that you enjoyed it, and yeah, have a good night.